In this presentation, you will learn about the basic principles of ecology that introduce you to the characteristics of living things and the different types of habitats you will find them in. One of the most important needs living things have is water. It helps organisms break down food, grow, and move substances like nutrients through their bodies and reproduce. Your first keyword is all. All living things need energy, which comes from food. Depending on how an organism gets food, they can be an autotroph, also known as a producer, or a heterotroph, also known as a consumer. Producers make their own foods like plants and bacteria, while consumers have to consume other organisms. Herbivores eat only plants, carnivores eat only animals, and omnivores eat both plants and animals in their diet. Living things also need space to live, where they can get food, water, and find shelter. Organisms will often compete for space, like lions defending their territory or humans bidding on a home. Your second keyword is living. All living things must have the ability to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is the balancing of internal systems. It allows organisms to maintain stable conditions inside the body by controlling temperature and the amount of water in the bloodstream. Homeostasis is also crucial for maintaining cell functions. We just learned about the 4 needs of living things. Now we are going to discuss the various characteristics of living organisms. First, all living things are made up of cells. Organisms can be unicellular or multicellular. Bacteria are unicellular, while humans are multicellular. Your third keyword is things. All living things have the same basic chemicals or biomolecules in their cells, such as nucleic acids, protein, lipids, and carbohydrates. The fact that all living things have genetic information formed in their DNA allows the same code for every organism on the planet, tells scientists that everything is connected, stemming back to millions of years ago when life was first formed. Living things are also able to take in and use energy. Energy is important to allow organisms to make organs work and repair or replace cells. Your fourth keyword is need. Living things can sense and respond to changes in the environment. You may read about this in other places, describing this as movement. Typically, a stimulus is an activity that may bring about a response. For example, if you stick your hand on a hot stove without realizing it, your brain immediately gets the signal that you are burning yourself and you impulsively pull your hand away. Living organisms also grow and develop. Organisms grow larger by multiplying the number of cells in the body. They also develop over time. For example, frogs go through metamorphosis from tadpole to frog, and humans go through puberty. Living things have to be able to reproduce. Organisms make offspring either sexually or asexually. Sexual reproduction involves both a mother and a father, while asexual reproduction involves just one parent, and the offspring is considered a clone. Your fifth keyword is water. Now that we have covered living organisms, we are going to go through some of the basic principles of ecology. Ecology is the study of living things interacting with their environment. Remember that every living thing is made up of cells. An ecosystem is made up of all the living and non-living factors. Living factors are biotic factors, and your non-living factors are abiotic factors. In this picture, place a circle around all of the biotic factors and an X over the abiotic factors. So you should see this deer circled as a biotic factor. This bird is a biotic factor. The fish, the butterfly, the grass, and the tree. These are all living. Non-living is your sun, your clouds, your wind or air, the dirt or rocks, and water. All of science builds upon levels. Every living organism is made up of cells, tiny living units that can live alone or combine to make more complex things like tissues, organs, organ systems, and organisms. Hence, our levels of organization. On the right-hand side, we see a progression where atoms make up molecules, multiple working molecules work together to make up organelles. All of the organelles together make up a cell. Cells of the same type combine to form specific type of tissue. Specialized tissues can form an entire organ. Multiple organs functioning together can make up an entire organ system, and every organ system in the body contributes to the organism. Organisms are organized into levels by how they interact with one another, which will take us into the levels of organization for ecology. We have several types of organisms, and their type tells us how the organisms interact. Let's go back to our levels of organization. The last half of these levels revolve around the ecological levels of organization. Now create your own levels of organization for the frog. Each level must build upon the previous level. For example, if you draw a cardiac muscle cell, then you should draw cardiac muscle tissue, a heart, and the cardiovascular system. Your sixth keyword is food. Let's now dive into what each level or ecological organization means. An organism is a single living thing that obtains water, food, and shelter to live, grow, and reproduce in its inhabitant or its environment. An organism niche is its total way of life or its lifestyle. In this example, we will continue with the frog. A population is a group of interbreeding organisms living in the same area. An example would be all of the frogs living in a pond behind your neighborhood. All of the populations in an ecosystem make up the community. This would include all of the frogs as well as other living plants and animals living in the pond behind your neighborhood. Your seventh keyword is space. The next level is the ecosystem, which includes not only the living or biotic factors, but also the non-living or abiotic factors. We will discuss the major types of ecosystems like rainforests, the desert, tundra, and several others. The ecosystem in the pond behind your backyard not only includes the living plants and animals, but it also includes the non-living sun, dirt, water, air, and rocks. The biosphere includes every place on Earth where life is supported. This includes the atmosphere, dealing with air, the hydrosphere, dealing with water, and the lithosphere, dealing with surface-level soil and rocks. Your eighth keyword is homeostasis. Now we're going to identify all of the biomes of the world. Follow along by filling out the chart in your notes. You only need to fill in 1 or 2 animals and plants for each biome, even though there are many examples. The desert is very dry with little rainfall. It can be hot or cold and typically has sandy soil. The plants and animals in a desert must be able to retain plenty of water. Most animals are nocturnal and hunt at night when it is cooler outside. Your ninth keyword is and. Most savannas are found in Africa, Australia, and India. The typical animals found in savannas must be able to survive in drier temperatures like the elephant, lions, and zebras. There are more grasses than any other plant, but you will find the famous acacia tree here. A temperate grassland has a drier climate and therefore does not get enough rainfall to sustain trees. So here you will mostly find grasses and clover. Many of the animals are grazers like bison and elk, but you will also find predators like coyotes. You most likely have heard of the Arctic tundra with a freezing climate. These desert-like Arctic regions are found in the poles. Animals that live here have to be able to hibernate during the winter months or migrate and grow quickly during the summer months. Because the ground is frozen in the form of permafrost, for most of the plants here must be able to go dormant and then grow quickly during the 2-month-long summer. The word alpine means mountain. High elevations in the mountainous regions also resemble a high tundra. These areas are cold, treeless, and frozen. Animals like mountain goats and bighorn sheep have skilled balance to navigate the rocky edges and cliff sides, and short shrubs and grasses can be found under the ice during the summer months. Your 10th keyword is many. The taiga is also considered the coniferous forest. This is the most abundant biome on the planet because it can be found in all of Canada and Russia. The pine tree forest can be covered in snowfall during the summer months, and animals like moose and wolves are equipped to handle the harsh winters. The tropical rainforest is famously known for its hot temperature and heavy rainfall. There are many tall, dense evergreen trees that provide shelter and food for animals like monkeys, frogs, and jaguars. The canopy of the trees actually blocks most sunlight from hitting the ground, so there are a few low-growing plants. Instead, many plants are adapted to growing on the trees. The temperate deciduous forest can be found in your area. This biome gets moderate rainfall throughout the year and has 4 seasons: winter, summer, fall, and spring. Trees here lose their leaves in the fall and bloom in the spring. Animals like deer, squirrels, and foxes can be found in the local communities. Your 11th key word is other. We are now going to shift into aquatic habitats and biomes. We separate aquatic biomes by freshwater and saltwater. Freshwater is defined as having a low salt concentration, usually less than 1% salt in the water. Organisms that live in freshwater regions cannot survive in high salt concentration, just like organisms that live typically in an oceanic region cannot survive in a freshwater stream or lake. Rivers and streams describe water that continuously move in a single direction, causing the communities to change depending on the speed of the river. You can typically find wading birds searching for fish to eat. Most plants growing here are algae and other plant life that can anchor to river rocks. Your 12th keyword is things. Lakes and ponds are still bodies of water. Plants are either rooted or floating, and fish can be found swimming along with turtles and snakes. And depending on where you are at, you might also see an alligator. Wetlands are crucial to our planet. Here, the land is saturated with water for at least part of the year. The plants must have the ability to survive in flooded soils, and animals like reptiles and egret are found wading or swimming for food. Your 13th keyword is to, T-O. Marine or saltwater regions cover about 3/4 of the Earth. Marine algae supply 90% of the world's oxygen and take in just as much carbon dioxide. Evaporation of seawater provides rainfall for much of the land. Estuaries are regions where fresh water meets salt water. A big example of this would be where the Mississippi empties out into the Gulf of Mexico. Both animals and plants must have the ability to go back and forth between various temperatures and salinity levels. Intertidal zones are where the ocean meets land. As waves come in or out, the beach can be exposed or submerged. Worms, clams, and sea fleas are popularly known for these biomes, and you are considered lucky if you find a sea star. Mud is constantly moving, making it difficult for few algae plants to establish themselves in the soil. Coral reefs are incredibly crucial to our planet's survival. The warm, shallow waters are home to many corals, colorful fishes, sharks, octopus, and so many more aquatic animals. Plants like algae and seaweed perform photosynthesis to provide these habitats with lots of energy from the sun. The open and deep ocean are furthest out from land and do not obtain much sunlight or have any means of anchoring down photosynthetic plants. This makes it hard for large ecosystems to develop in the deep ocean. This is typically where whales, dolphins, and deep-sea fish can be found though. Your last key word is survive. This wraps up our first notes on ecology. Make sure you keep these in a safe place to come back to for this entire unit.